salatu wasalam, and to the Sahaba. And then I'll tell you about things that happened because of that. And then we'll go back and talk about stuff that happened maybe before. So I won't do it fully in sequence. So it won't be this is what happened in months, the first month of this 5th year and the second and the third, because we don't really have that accuracy. We just don't. We know what happened basically between the year number 3 and 9, pretty much, and we know everything that occurred, but we don't have perfect accuracy in terms of exactly the sequence of all of these events. So just not to confuse people, I will kind of talk about them in clumps in terms of the topics so that it's a little bit more relatable, and it helps you inshallah remember what it is that occurred. So what we had talked about last week, and I had gone through these points here in terms of what happened to the Prophet ﷺ himself. As he was being called names, he was being called Majnoon. They were using وَقَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِي نُزِّلَ عَلَيْهِ الذِّكْرُ إِنَّكَ لَمَجْنُونَ. They would call him Majnoon alayhi salatu wasalam, and they would run away from him and do stuff that were extremely childish. They would call him other names as well alayhi salatu wasalam that I choose not to bring up here because there's really no point of doing that. Abu Lahab, his uncle, would persecute. Umar ibn Khattab himself would help along. They would bring in someone to just basically distract people from what he's talking about, a man who just tells stories, and they would claim that he's just a storyteller that makes up stuff as he goes along. They would accuse him of working with foreign forces and taking revelation from some foreign person. So they kept on. When you listen to these accusations, what you start to feel is that they're a little bit bankrupt, and that's how you know that the opposition to any idea has nothing, is when they start going after stuff like that. When they drop the idea that you brought, they drop actually going against that or arguing that or discussing that, and they just start to look for things in terms of your past or your character, or they start making accusations that have no basis at all, just as a form of propaganda, just to get people distracted or just change people's minds based on false information. Because when you have a good argument, you don't do that. When you have a good argument, you don't have to make stuff up. You just make the good argument, and then people will later basically listen to that, and a stronger argument usually always wins, almost all the time. If people are listening to individuals converse on something, whoever has the better ideas or points is going to be the winner, and people will listen to that. But the Prophet ﷺ had the better argument. That's the whole point, that Islam had the superior argument, and Quraysh knew it. So they almost never engaged, and they tried to. He would corner them quite a bit, alayhi salatu wasalam, and force them to engage. But they would try to get out of it as much as possible because they just had no good comebacks. Because he would just ask them simple questions, and they had no answers to these questions that he's asking. He would offer them the alternative, and he would argue evidence, and he would give examples, and they would just sit there helpless. So they would end up doing all of this. So throughout these sessions where we talk about the years of persecution, the conclusion that we'll come to, or that you will start feeling, is that it's not really the Prophet ﷺ who had the lower hand in this. He wasn't the weaker person here. Quraysh was. Even though they had more people, even though they were more popular, they had more wealth, they had more weapons, they had more status. But because he had the stronger idea, ﷺ, he was always taking the initiative. And they were always stuck trying to figure out how to deal with what he was doing, ﷺ. So we often see these years as the years where he was weak, ﷺ. We use that terminology. And I've never found that to be accurate. Yes, he was being persecuted, but he was never weak, because his idea was strong. And the strength of the idea will take you quite far. If you have a strong idea that allows you to do way more than you think is possible. Yes, maybe you don't have as many numbers, or you don't have as much experience, or you're not as wealthy, but none of those matter. A strong idea trumps all. And it's just a matter of time. You just have to make sure that you're willing to persevere and that you have grit. You have that resilience. You will stick to your idea. You won't give up. No one can stop you. You're not gonna wave the white flag at some point because you got tired, or because they were able to sway you. And I think learning that from him, alayhi salatu wasalam, especially in this time that we're living, is extremely, extremely important and very worthy. Throughout these times, Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Ibn Ishaq in his Seerah, he doesn't really point out a narration for this story, but it's in his Seerah and the Seerah of Ibn Hisham as well. He points out that the Prophet ﷺ would spend most of the nights, as Surah Al-Muzammil commanded, doing qiyam. And Khadija would sometimes see him working all day long and then praying most of the night, and she would tell him, Ya Rasulullah, halla nimt, will you not take some time and sleep? فيقول عليه الصلاة والسلام مضى زمن النوم يا خديجة. The time of sleeping is gone. Like, that's behind me now. There's no time for me to, there's too much to be done. I carry too much of a burden to sleep. And he would do that, alayhi salatu wasalam, to the point where these verses would be revealed in the Quran, and they're similar. If you look at لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ in Surah Al-Shu'ara, for example, or in Surah Al-Kahf that you recite almost every week. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. What does بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ means? بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ means, are you going to ruin your own well-being by working so hard to the point where you basically die? So in Arabic, the literal translation is kill yourself, but not in the form of suicide. That's not what باخع نفسك means. It's not in the form of, it's not a suicidal term. It means you're going to work yourself to death. That's what it means. Are you going to put your well-being, your health, you're going to jeopardize that at jeopardy because they don't want to believe in you? Because that's how he understand his role, alayhi salatu wasalam. That he was responsible for people and their destinations and their level of iman. He felt responsible. It's that feeling that I'm more interested in. It's the feeling that I think we should take a little bit of time and contemplate and reflect upon. The behavior itself, we can't hold a candle to the amount of the effort he put in, alayhi salatu wasalam. We can't. There's nothing we can. But the feeling is important. He felt responsible for everyone around him, believers and non-believers. And if someone believed, he felt responsible for them in terms of helping them improve and walk down the path safely. And if they weren't Muslim, he felt responsible for the fact that they weren't, and that it was something he wasn't doing right, and he had to figure out a way to help this person find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he would go, you can't say they would go out and beyond, because that's not even the appropriate description. The appropriate description is باخع نفسك, as the Quran points out. لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ. What, are you going to work yourself to death that they don't want to believe? And it's not just work himself, alayhi salatu. Al-baqa is also there's sorrow in it. Meaning, if you take the root of the word in Arabic, it's not just that you're working so hard that you don't take care of yourself. There's also sorrow in the word. Meaning you're upset, you're sad. Meaning emotionally, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was that responsibility that I'm pointing out. He felt emotionally responsible. In the Quran, we can say, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. You're going to work yourself into an early grave out of sorrow. Asafa, out of sorrow, because of the fact that they won't listen to what you have to say. Don't do that. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet alayhi sallam, take it easy. No, you're doing well. Continue what you do, but don't ruin yourself. Don't forget that you need to take care of yourself as well, and the people and your family, and because he felt responsible, alayhi salatu wasalam. So, before we start patting ourselves on the back and saying, okay, I'll take it easy. He wasn't speaking to you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was speaking to the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. So before we decide to take a little bit of a break, he wasn't speaking to me or you. He was speaking to the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. And if we want to actually take this verse and apply it on ourselves, then maybe we work as hard as he did, and then we take a step back. But what I'm really interested in when we look at this is that emotional piece, is that sense of responsibility. That is so valuable, and it's so rare. So rare to champion something, to champion something, to take ownership of something. Whatever it is, the ummah is in need of many things, to take ownership of one of these things. You're not dependent on someone else. You're not waiting for someone to give you the green light or to provide something for you. It doesn't matter what people think, say, or do regarding this issue to you or with you or without you, because you've taken ownership of this issue. This is your thing. You will continue to do it till the day you die, whether people support it or they don't, whether they help you or they don't, whether they appreciate it or they don't. That is a very rare quality. It is very rare, but it's prophetic. It's prophetic in nature. It stems from his heart, alayhi salatu wasalam. He wants to take something from him, alayhi salatu wasalam, and live with the rest of your life. Take ownership of something. You can't take ownership of all of the deen like he did, alayhi salatu wasalam, but you can find something. You can find some aspect of what this ummah needs and take ownership of it. It doesn't matter whether I support you or not, whether I give you time about it or not, whether I talk about it on the minbar for you or whether I help you fundraise for it. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get frustrated and say, like, I tried this community. No, because this is your thing. You own it. Now, if it doesn't work, you blame yourself and you try again. Because alayhi salatu wasalam could have easily said at some point, look, I've been trying. They're not listening, Arab. But, your people, they don't listen. And understand what I'm saying? If you run a business, you know what I mean, because you have different types of employees. There's someone who takes ownership of the actual task and just gets it done. Whatever trouble they have to go through, they'll get it done. And there's someone who come and say, I tried, I made a phone call, didn't answer. Why did you try another number? Did you maybe consider driving over? Like, there's different type of people. In this world, there are different type of people in terms of how much they feel that they have ownership. I'm not saying that every employee has to do that. I'm just saying you know what it means if you have children, you know exactly what this means. Children take zero ownership on anything you ask them to do. Zero ownership. Vacuum the carpet. They'll put it in they'll go as far as looking around the room for the vacuum cleaner. If it's not there, they'll sit. Couldn't find it. Did you maybe look in the other room? No, and if they look in the other room, maybe they'll put it into the electricity. If it doesn't turn on immediately, sorry. There's a word in Syrian culture, they call it sukhra. My dad used to say this to me all the time because I was exactly the same. I was no better than anything I'm describing for you when it came to working in something that was outside of my interest. Sukhra means you're just doing it because you have to. You're just doing it to get rid of the person who's nagging at you. You don't really care. If it works or not, you don't have ownership. These verses in the Quran, twice, are extremely rare, which is why I bring them to your attention. Because when does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turn to someone and say, okay, tune it down a notch. Take it down, it's fine. This is too much. You can afford to do less than this. But he did it for the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam twice, telling don't harm yourself. Because he was now, alayhi salatu wasalam, taking so much of a burden upon himself. He was getting physically unwell. He was getting emotionally unwell, alayhi salatu wasalam. The Quran said, no, take it back, it's okay. Because that's the degree of ownership he felt over this story. What aspect of this do you feel ownership over, that you're responsible for, regardless of who stands by you and who doesn't? Because that's the piece that I'm talking about here. Not you will try and do khair, and you will run into multiple roadblocks in your life, challenges and obstacles, and the people who you are actually serving will make it difficult for you to serve them. Right? This is how it is. And if you don't have ownership, then it's just a matter of time before you give up. Before you lose your interest and say, this is just a waste of time. I was doing this for you, I don't have to do this anymore, and then go home and do something different. But if you feel ownership, and you champion something, and you feel that responsibility, that emotional responsibility, that he felt, alayhi salatu wasalam, then you're in it till the end. And I think that's just something beautiful to think about when we talk about his story. Alayhi salatu wasalam, I have to point out this piece here, because it's important. They would mock him a lot, alayhi salatu wasalam. The Quran would point that out. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا كَانُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَضْحَكُونَ. Indeed, those who have chosen to break his law, subhanahu wa ta'ala, would laugh at those who would follow it. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِهِمْ, and when they walk by them, يَتَغَامَزُونَ, they wink at one another, and they speak under their breath about them. وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. When they go home, they tell stories to laugh at them. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ, and when they see them publicly, قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ. They say they have no idea what they're doing. They're a bunch of lost people. Prophet ﷺ would put up with a lot of that. And one day he was performing tawaf. This hadith is authentic in the collection of Ahmad and others. And he's performing tawaf, ﷺ, and some of the people of Dar al-Nadwa. And I want to make sure you understand that Dar al-Nadwa was a big deal in Arabia, because it was a place where diplomacy occurred. It was a place where decisions were made. Not everyone was allowed to go into Dar al-Nadwa and be a part of this group of leaders. The leaders of Mecca and the leaders of the surrounding large tribes had a footstep there. They had a seat, and these people would gather, and they would meet, and they would talk, and they would make decisions, and these decisions would sometimes become law in the land. It was the closest things that Arabians had, the Arab had, to a law, because there was really no law that governed the whole region. But whatever Dar al-Nadwa came up with was the closest thing they had to it. And for sure, these people had status. And the Prophet ﷺ was never amongst them. Like he wasn't in Dar al-Nadwa. He wasn't interested in this part of life, ﷺ. He was never a politician. That was never something he wanted to do. So he's making tawaf, ﷺ. There's some people sitting in Dar al-Nadwa, and they're mocking him. They're saying stuff. Every time he comes around, they raise their voices in mockery, and they're calling him names, and they're saying things that are disrespectful. After the fifth, circumambulation, like after he went 5 times around the Kaaba, listening to this, he changes his direction. When he comes close and they raise their voice, instead of keep on going around the Kaaba and tawaf, he heads right to them. Now the person telling the story is one of the people sitting in the room, who later on became Muslim. He walked into the room. وَكَانَتْ لَهُ هَيْبَةٌ عليه الصلاة والسلام. He had this degree of just innate reverence. Ali radiallahu anhu would describe him, قال من رآه بديهة هابه ومن خالطه معرفة أحبه. If you saw him just never knowing who he was, you had this hayba. It wasn't fear, it was just reverence, it's respect. It's something that made you just feel like you need to feel properly. And if you get to know him, you love him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how Ali, it's my favorite description that Sayyidina Ali would give to the Prophet alayhi salatu. But he walked into the room, and he walked in, and they all got maybe a little bit scared. And he walked amongst them. They're sitting in chairs beside each other, talking. And he would walk from behind them, and he put his head between them. And he would say, Ya ma'ashar Quraysh, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهُ, O people of Quraysh, if you don't stop doing this, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهُ عَنْ هَذَا, if you don't stop saying these things, فَوَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِالذَّبْحِ, I've come to you with slaughtering. And they got all scared. فَقَالُوا مَا عَرَفْنَاكَ إِلَّا حَلِيمًا يَا أَبَا الْقَاسِمِ, we only know you to be very patient and kind, Abu al-Qasim. So he stood there, alayhi salatu wasalam, for a moment. Didn't say a word. They wouldn't say a word. فَقَالُوا إِمْضِ مَوْفُورًا أَبَا الْقَاسِمِ, please go back to your tawaf in full respect. قَالَ فَمَضَى النَّبِيُّ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ, and he walked away. I love this story. Some people tell the seerah, don't tell this story, because they think it's a story that they don't understand. The Prophet ﷺ did not refuse to respond to their oppression and persecution out of fear, or out of cowardice, or of lack of ability to speak back. No, he did it as a conscious choice of him not respond, he was not willing to go down into the mud with them, alayhi salatu wasalam. He just refused for Islam to be like that. In this very clear example, alayhi salatu wasalam just needed to put them in their place for a moment, because they weren't just common people. No, these were the leaders of Quraysh. These were the role models of the people. These were the Sadat Quraysh sitting there, acting like children. So he needed to kind of set them straight, alayhi salatu wasalam, for a moment. And he had the character, and he had the strength, the personality strength to do these things, but he chose not to. So every time I tell you a story where they come and they treat him in a horrific manner, and he doesn't say a word, make sure you remember this, that he could have, alayhi salatu wasalam. He did not lack the verbal, intellectual, or physical ability, alayhi salatu wasalam, to do any of these things. But he made a choice. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to stoop to this low that you've all stooped to. I'm not. Because it's just that ruins the beauty of what this deen is. It ruins the beauty of this revelation. So he said no. And as you hear these stories, and you kind of, it occurs to how difficult it was for him, alayhi salam, during those years, the Quran would do the same thing. مَا يُقَالُ لَكَ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ قِيلَ لِلرُّسُلِ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. All that's being said to you, O Muhammad, is what was said to the prophets before you. I mean, don't make a big deal of it. Everything you're hearing, the prophets before you heard. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. And we know that your chest becomes tight, meaning you get upset by what they say to you and about you. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُمْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Exalt your Lord and be amongst those who prostrate for Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, and continue to serve Him until clarity comes to you. Yaqeen, until that moment of certainty. Whether that word is referring to death, or whether that word is referring to prevalence and success, we don't know really, because it's just yaqeen. Yaqeen is certainty. Whatever that means, I don't know. And I don't think he was sure about it either, alayhi salatu wasalam, because he was never told in Mecca that he was going to make it. And this is a really important piece for you to kind of remember throughout this whole story. Because you and I know how the story works. You and I know what's going to happen next. To a certain degree, we know how it's going to pay out. Like, he'll do the hijrah, he'll get there, he'll win a few battles, it'll work out. He didn't know that, alayhi salatu wasalam, during this. He wasn't being told in the Quran, it'll be fine, just stick to it. He didn't know that. He was not given that. Actually, the Quran would tell him something that would put him in a position where it was, فَإِمَّا نَذْهَبَنَّ بِكَ فَإِنَّا مِنْهُمْ مُنْتَقِمُونَ. أو نرينك الذي وعدناهم فإنا عليهم مقتدرون. Either you will die, and then we will we will avenge you, or we will show you what we promised in terms of success and victory. So he's being told it could go this way or that way. It was later in Medina that he was told, Wallahu ya'simuka min an-nas, in the last year of his life, alayhi salatu wasalam, after he was already, but before that, no, he wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's very important piece. So they went after, let me talk about this first then. So they're going to go after, I'm going to talk about the different ways they're going to go after him. So they went after his character, they called him names, they would walk behind him, denying him the ability to speak to people. But when that didn't work, when it didn't really change at all the amount of effort he was putting in, they went after his family. They went after his family. So they went after Khadija radiallahu anha. And Al-As ibn Wa'il came up with this really clever way to kind of harm him alayhi salatu wasalam through his wife. So he would say, Da'uhu yaqil ma yasha. Let him speak, let him say whatever he wants. فَإِنَّهُ لَا عَقِبَ لَهُ. And yet there is no one to carry anything after him. فَإِنَّهُ أَبْتَرْ. Abtar is a word the Arab would use to refer to someone whose lineage died with them, meaning no one would continue their legacy, right? Because back then, the only way a person's legacy would continue if they had like a lot of male children. That's just that understanding. The Prophet ﷺ did not. Al-Qasim and Abdullah both died young, and he had 4 daughters ﷺ. So Al-As, who had, as known, 25 sons, amongst them Amr ibn Al-As, whom we know. This is what he said. He said he wanted to kind of give him a little bit of jab. So he said, yeah, why are you wasting your time? Let him say whatever he wants. Let him speak and let him preach and no one will continue what he had to say after. Harming and Khadija would hurt. Because Khadija radiallahu anha couldn't, at that point, wasn't able to have children anymore, and she wanted to give him a son, and she wasn't able to give him a son, radiallahu anha, so it hurt her. And because it hurt her, it hurt him, alayhi salatu wasalam, that this was happening. So the Quran came and actually dealt with this one. The Quran came and said, this is one of the most beautiful surahs in the Quran. So if you read it every day, you probably don't. You probably recite like half of Baqarah every salah. So you don't read it. But I encourage you, please read this one more often in your salah. Just make sure you understand exactly what it is that it's teaching, so that you can actually benefit from the meaning that it carries. It's an extremely linguistically beautiful surah. It's hard. I've been trying to figure out for the last few years how I'm going to explain it linguistically to you in English, and I have failed so far because it's just the terminology is just extremely difficult for me to get across. But it's from it's mu'jiz al-lughawi, meaning linguistically in Arabic it's extremely impressive, the usage of the words because if you look at it, it's very short. The first ayah is 3 words, then 3 or 4 words, then 4 words after that. And so one of the shortest surahs in the Quran, if not the shortest surah in the Quran in terms of the number of words that exist within it. And it begins by telling the Prophet ﷺ, there's 3 things. Here's 3 things for you to know. And this is very helpful. This surah tells you how to deal with people who are mocking you. If you are being made fun of or put down or spoke of in a derogatory manner, right? Surah Al-Kawthar is for you. It'll tell you exactly what to do. Number 1, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Indeed, we have given you al-Kawthar. Al-Kawthar is a linguistic derivative that is faw'al, and it's taken from kaf ra, which is kathur, right? And that's where we take the word kathir, which is a lot. So kawthar is a derivative that says this is the most and the best of something. Faw'al says it's the best. The word itself has the kathir, which is a lot. So kawthar, in its meaning linguistically, aside from it being the basin or the river the Prophet ﷺ has in Jannah, which is totally fine to understand it that way. But just the linguistic meaning of this word means we have given you the most and the best. Meaning the best of everything in abundance is what you're going to get. So don't worry about what they have to say about you, because it doesn't matter. What they say doesn't affect what it is that we have hidden and waiting for you. Now we have in hiding for you, or what's waiting on the other side, is Al-Kawthar. It's the most and the best of everything. So don't worry. That's the first thing you need to know. Is when you're being mocked or disrespected, that doesn't affect. Meaning, if people are looking down at you, that doesn't affect how Allah sees you. It doesn't affect how He sees you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that is not the same thing. People can look at you however they want. They can think little of you, think a lot of you. Doesn't matter what they think of you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks of you independently from their remarks. So they can put you down, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will see you as in higher regards. So the first piece was, know what's waiting for you. Don't let their words hurt you. Don't let their words hurt you. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. Second thing, what do? You remind yourself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for you beautiful things. So you don't have to, so don't allow their words to take that away from you. Number 2, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So the translation here is very important to understand, because this is a really good example of where we can completely misquote something. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ, meaning, continue to pray and make dua. Salah is also dua. Communicate with your Lord. وَانْحَرْ, and وَانْحَرْ is slaughter the person who mocked you. No, of course not. وَانْحَرْ as in hadi, as in udhiyah. So the Prophet ﷺ would do this a lot. He was someone who, whenever he was able, or whenever he obtained livestock, he would slaughter and he would feed people. So what he's being told here, alayhi salatu wasalam, is continue to do what you do. What do? You do 2 things. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ, you have a strong connection with your Lord, keep it. وَانْحَرْ, and you take care of people and you feed them, continue to do that as well. Their words should never stop you. Their word, what they say about you, what they do to you, should never stop the goodness within you. If you're a good person, then you're a good person. If people say good things about you, you're a good person. If they say bad things about you, you're a good person. If people can, with certain words, change you from being a good person to something different, then there's a little bit of a problem there. If people's opinion of you, if they can say things about you, mock you, put you down, put you in a position, and change who you are, so you're not the same person anymore, that's a big problem. Because that means whatever it is you were, it wasn't genuine, it was conditional. And conditional goodness there's nothing impressive about that. That's almost meaningless. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Continue to be the person who you are. Continue to connect with your Lord. Continue to feed the people who are hungry. إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ. Indeed, shani' is the person who has put themselves in opposition of someone else. Shani'aka, the person who is in opposition to you. Huwa al-abtar. He is the one who will have no one to carry his legacy. You see, in 4 or 5 weeks from now, you will still know who Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. But I can attest that if I asked you who this surah was talking about on the other side, you probably wouldn't know. He had 25 sons, yet he had no legacy. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had no sons, yet everyone in this room gathered just to hear his story, alayhi salatu wasalam. And the only person that allows us to know who that guy is his son Amr ibn al-As. And the only reason that As ibn Wa'il is known today is through his son, who carried the legacy of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the only way he's known. The only reason he's known is because one of his children decided, the rest of them, the 25, I don't know any of their names. I just know Amr. And the reason I know Amr, and I'm able to say I know who this guy is, who's his dad, is because Amr decided at one point to join Muhammad alayhi salatu wasallam and follow him. So who is it who's going to lose all legacy? Who's the one who has no one to continue it? Who's cut off in terms of his lineage? Was it Amr, or was it Al-As or the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? What goes around comes around. First of all, know people mock you. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks very highly of you, and Allah will be waiting for you. Continue to be the same person you've always been. You've been a good person. Continue that. Don't let that stop you. Number 3, what goes around comes around. Don't worry. Any negativity that you project into this world it's a boomerang. It takes a little bit of time. It'll go 365 and come right back to the person who did it in the first place. Don't worry about it. It's very poetic. It's beautiful, actually. You just sit back. Someone harmed you, just sit back and wait. Don't waste your time carrying grudges and try. Wallahi, it'll come back. Unless they repent and change their ways, what they produce, what you put into this world will come back at you. You put out goodness, that's what you'll get. You put out harm, that's what you'll get. It takes a bit of time, but it happens. Oh, for sure it happens. Ask people over 70, and they'll tell you. Because they've lived life, they've watched it happen. Sometimes in small snapshots, it's hard to see. Right? Within 2-3 years, you don't see it. But then when you look at the timeline, when you allow the timeline to expand a little bit, it's very obvious. It's very simple. If you project harm and hate and negativity, it just comes back. It catches up with you. Catches up with you easily. So he told him, alayhi subhanahu wa ta'ala, the guy who talked about you. It's funny, didn't name him. If he named him, then he would forever be known. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't name him. He could have said in Fulan wal Abtar, but then his name would be forever known, and that would actually be contradicting itself. So say Shani'aka, the person who decided to oppose you on this, he is the one who's going to be forgotten. He is the Abtar. He's the one who has no one to continue it for him, and he was forgotten. And the only memory we have of him is because of the Prophet ﷺ himself. His name lives on because of him ﷺ. That's what you do when you're harmed. Harming his family would go one step further. Abu Lahab, how many strikes so far? Right? It's been 3 strikes. Stood up in the middle of his home and he very rude to him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Strike 2, when he was standing on the Mount of Safa. Strike 3, he would walk behind him and say, he's insane, he's a liar, don't speak to him. Strike 4. So here's a piece I didn't tell you about, I'm going to tell you about now. Remember I told you Abu Lahab had every reason to accept Islam. Because he was so close. He was the Prophet ﷺ's uncle, they knew each other well, he knew he was honest, they lived close by. Beyond that, Abu Lahab's 2 sons, Utbah and Utaybah, were engaged to the Prophet ﷺ's 2 daughters, Ruqayya and Kulthum. Engaged to be married. Right? Engaged to be married. And as this was happening, they were still engaged to be married. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't call it off. He didn't say anything. He left it as it is. But Abu Lahab, out of spite, would go to the Prophet, to his sons, and he would say, Wajhi min wajhaykuma haram. Meaning, I will never look at your faces again. Hatta tutalliqa bintay Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You divorced both his daughters today. So they did. So they divorced his daughters. Now, anyone who has daughters knows that this is a big deal, especially for a mother. I always thought about Khadija for this piece, even more than I thought about him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Fathers tend to be a little bit more common these things. Mothers suffer with this a bit more. Khadija's 2 daughters now were divorced because of this. And I always thought how easy it would have been for her to say, this is what I get from your days up in the mountain. Now both our daughters have no, now they're divorced. And some people say, this is where I draw the line. Now, kharabat baytum, now you've ruined their future. Now, not a word. And the thing is that it didn't get fixed. Here's the point that I need you to really understand. It didn't get fixed. Sometimes people say, they'll tell you that if you leave, if something happens to you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of harm, then you'll be immediately compensated. No, that's actually not true. You may not be compensated in dunya at all. You may be compensated yawm al-qiyamah. Actually, that's what you should be looking for. You shouldn't be really hooked up all on dunya compensation. It didn't work out. Like Ruqayya didn't get married until 2-3 years later to Uthman. Kulthum didn't get married until her sister died and she married her previous husband. So it's not like they divorced them and then immediately 2 grooms came and knocked on the door and married them. No, they stayed without zawaj for a while. So it was actually harmful. It was harmful to the Prophet ﷺ and to his daughters and to Khadija radiallahu anha wa ardaha. Under the belt move, wasn't it? It's an under the belt. And Abu Lahab, no matter how bad, you don't do that. That's uncalled for. It's uncalled for. He didn't say a word, alayhi salatu wasalam. They divorced him, no problem. And the nasib didn't come immediately afterwards. They weren't compensated in dunya right away. No. They weren't compensated, and they don't have a dhurriya. When we talk about Ruqayya and Kulthum, where are their children? We know the children of Fatima, Zahra radiallahu anha alayhi salam. We know Hassan wal Hussein. We know Zainab radiallahu anha had Umayma. But where is, they didn't. They got married late, and they didn't bear children. This is, for me, an ongoing example. If you truly, truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and accept what this deen is, then be a little bit more mature about what trials are in life. Not every time you go through something difficult and you persevere, you're going to say, I expect my reward like immediately. If you do that, I'm just sad to say, or sorry to say, you're going to be really disappointed. Things don't work that way. They don't. If they did, they would have worked out for him, alayhi salatu wasalam, that way. They didn't. It's okay. It's all right. Ruqayya and Kulthum are going to be taken care of. There's no doubt about that. In dunya, they didn't work out immediately for them. But you should be okay with that. We have to be. It's hard to accept. Well, it is. It's very hard to accept, but that's the reality of this. It's very important. Abu Jahl, one day, the Prophet ﷺ was performing da'wah to him. And he would say, Ya Muhammad, ما لك تكلمني كل يوم? Why are you speaking to me every day? Wallahi, لو أعلم أنك صادق لاتبعتك. If I knew that you were telling the truth about all this, I would have followed you. ولكنك كذاب, but you're a liar. And he would walk away from him, alayhi salatu wasalam. So the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, would go home. And then he would, Abu Jahl, after doing that, after being extremely rude, speaks very rude. Even in Arabian culture, to call someone a liar to their face is a big deal. To imply that they're maybe exaggerating or lying, which we do a lot of, by the way, but implying it is actually a big deal. It can cause like real rifts within communities. For Abu Jahl to say that to the Prophet ﷺ's face was extremely disrespectful. Regardless of anything, he doesn't. Prophet ﷺ, no problem. He walked away. Didn't escalate this or just walked away. Abu Jahl would go and sit by Safwan ibn Umayyah. And he would come clean. Sometimes when it's hard when you carry falsehood. When you carry falsehood long enough, it boils on the inside. It ruins you. You have to get it out. You have to say it's hard. It's hard. If you know the truth, if you know what is right, at some point it just finds it seeps through. It seeps through the cracks. And Abu Jahl, after saying that to him, alayhi salam, knowingly that was not the case, he just had that moment. He was sitting by Safwan. He said, Ya Safwan, wallahi, inni la'alamu annahu sadiq. I swear I know that he is truthful. And Safwan, imagining him drinking water and he chokes like, what? He said, what? You know what? What are you talking about? You're the one who's been telling everyone that he's a threat to our nation, he's a threat to our traditions, he's a threat to our identity, he's a threat to our customs, he's a threat to our land, he works with you've been preaching for the last couple of years. Everyone doesn't believe, no one's following him because of what you're saying. And yeah, I know he's a sadiq. So I was like, what? And Abu Jahl continues, Kunna wa bani Hashim kafara sayrihan. You see, my family, he's from Banu Makhzum. Remember, I showed you like a little bit of the lineage breakdown at the beginning of this. I should have probably added it here, but I forgot. Banu Makhzum were never in alliance with Banu Hashim. Quraysh had all these alliances, like families that grouped up to protect one another. Banu Makhzum, Abu Jahl, Abu Hakam ibn Hisham, his tribe were never, not in all the different alliances, they were completely separated. Banu Hashim had a lot of status. No money, a lot of status. They were a proud family. The Prophet ﷺ's family was a proud family. A family that Abdul Muttalib was a part of them. He revived Zamzam. They took care of the Kaaba. They took care of the Hajj. They had a lot of names of people who were respected, who were noble, who were warriors. And Banu Makhzum had something similar. They were always competing. So, Kunna wa bani Hashim kafara sayrihan. We were like two racing horses. The horses that people bet on, I'm not sure if there's a word for that, but the two racing horses that people bet, that's how we were. يَقُولُونَ مِنَّا كَذَا وَنَقُولُ مِنَّا كَذَا. They say, we have this amongst us. We have this poet, or this warrior, or this nobleman. وَنَقُولُ مِنَّا كَذَا. We say, well, we have this politician, or this leader, or this great person. حَتَّى قَالُوا مِنَّا نَبِي. And then they said, we have a prophet. أَنَّ لَنَا بِهَذِهِ. Where am I going to get a prophet from? We don't have a prophet in our army. We didn't think of it. I just thought of that. I would have said it first. I didn't think of it. Wallahi la u'minu bihi abada. I'll never ever stand by him. I'll never follow him ever. Had nothing to do with the content. Had nothing to do with the message. Had to do with something that was completely outside of all of it. Abu Jahl just could not stand the idea of him following some person from Bani Hashim. They're arch enemies. The people whom they always were trying to outplay, people that they were trying to prove they were better than, they were superior to, that they had more reason to have higher status, that they were more respected than. Now I'm gonna follow some person from that tribe? No, not doing it. Yeah, you can come to a point of jealousy or arrogance that can send you down that track. It's very easy. If you read at some point the story of Iblis, it's not that hard to understand it. That's Iblis' problem. Iblis had every reason to, he was up there with the Malaika. None of you have gone, Have any of you been invited to join the Malaika in Jannah? That's how great you were that Allah said, no, 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 you don't deserve to be on earth with these people. Come up here with them. No, Iblis was told, come up with the Malaika. Forget about it. Come up here. Come spend with them. You're not one of them, but come spend with them. That's how good you are. That's his status. He was told, show respect to Adam. I love Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I love Adam. I created him. He's different. I love him. Show respect to him. No, I can't. Can't do it. Can't do it. Why? Why do I show respect to him? What did he do? What has he done so far? He has done nothing. I've been worshiping you for years. He has done nothing. Why do I? I'm fire. Look at him. He's mud. You see the earth? It stinks. It's mud. It's mud and water. Why do I have to show respect to him? He couldn't get over it. He could not get over it. So he couldn't do it. He got so arrogant and so full of himself, he couldn't do it. And if you think you're better, then you fell into the same problem that he had in the first place. Then you just fell into the same trap. If you think in your mind that, no, I would have done that, then you just thought yourself that you're better than him, which is his problem to begin with. He thought he was better than Adam. That's the exact same problem. It's a conundrum to think that, no, I would have done that. Really? You know that for sure. You are certain that you would have done that. How do you know that? Who told you that? Did Allah tell you, no, you're different, you would have done that? Then you're just being arrogant just like he was. Same problem. Just thinking that we're better. He couldn't help it. He became so arrogant that he could not bring himself to do it. And he was given a couple of examples. Here's a way out. Allah will tell him, مَا مَنَاكَ يَا إِبْلِيسِ مَا لَكَ أَلَّا تَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. Nope. And then he challenged that, give me a chance and I'll prove that he's not worth anything. Give me a chance. Just أَخِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Just don't take my life until the day of judgment, and I will prove to you that they are not worth the trust and love you've shown them. لَإِنْ أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ لَأَحْتَنِكَنَّ ذُرِّيَّتَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. I will put, what they put on the horse, the mouthpiece. I don't know what it's called in English, but you can move the reins. Yeah. لَأَحْتَنِكَنَّ. I'm going to put reins on them. I'll put reins on them for you. Just give me time. I'll put reins on their faces and I'll tell them, go right, they'll go right. They won't obey you, they'll obey me. He challenged Allah. He couldn't, even though he knows Allah more than you and I do, or will ever will, because he was there. I can't imagine that there's any comparison to my understanding of God and his. But arrogance and jealousy can ruin a person, can be their demise. That's exactly what happened here. Exactly what happened to Abu Jahl is he could not help it. He came clean to Abu Safwan sitting there with his jaw dropped, listening to this. But he couldn't go around telling people because there was no witnesses. So he just stuck with it until he told the story after he accepted Islam, after Fatah Makkah. He told the story after he accepted Islam, after Fatah Makkah. He said, this is what happened one day. He just came clean and said this. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do with this piece of information. I didn't say anything. Subhanallah. قَدْ نَعْلَمُ in Surah Al-An'am قَدْ نَعْلَمُ إِنَّهُ لَيَحْزُنُكَ الَّذِي يَقُولُونَ. We know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we know that what they're saying bothers you and it's hurtful and it's disrespectful and it's uncalled for. فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يُكَذِّبُونَ. They don't disbelieve in what you're saying. They don't actually think that you're a liar. They don't. وَلَكِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ يَجْحَدُونَ. But the oppressors, they choose consciously to ignore the signs of their lords. They just don't want to accept what they know is the truth. And that's what Abu Jahl did. These foundational surahs, I put them here every once in a while just to kind of remind people of what it is has been revealed, what's been revealed so far, and what lessons the Sahaba have been taught. And amongst the surahs that were revealed, the Surah Al-An'am. Surah Al-An'am is a long surah. It's like 25 pages or so. We have evidence that it was revealed all at once. The evidence lacks authenticity. It lacks a little bit of authenticity. We have nothing to rebuttal it. But we know for sure that Surah Al-An'am, it wasn't revealed all at once. It was revealed in a very short period of time as a long surah, which is very rare. It's a Mecca surah, the early ones. And it talks about Iman. It talks about an Iman. To say the word faith or belief as an equivalent to Iman is a really poor choice of words. It's not a good one. Iman is to internalize theology. Theology as in who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and what our role here is. That's what theology is. Understanding the universe through the lens of a supreme power, of God. So that theology, that understanding of the world, of who Allah is and what my role in this world is in terms, internalizing that, meaning going from just this thought that I claim to accept or acknowledge or adhere to something that is a part of my subconsciousness that will drive behavior. That's what Iman actually is. It's a very, very powerful aspect of our deen. And Surah Al-An'am talks about it in depth. It's a 25-page surah that goes through this. It breaks it down to two things. The dualities, it's understanding and then practicing. It's saying, I understand that you are who you are, and since you gave me this command, then I will immediately obey. I move forward. Because Iman, you can't say that it's there if you don't actually follow the teachings. It's saying, I know, I say la ilaha illallah, yeah, I understand you say it, but it doesn't mean it's not Iman until you're able to turn it into actual behavior. That's why قالت الأعراب آمنا. We'll talk about this maybe in a couple of months or a year. The Bedouins came and said, Amanna. They accepted Islam like the same day. قل لم تؤمنوا. Say, no, you're not that. You don't have Iman yet. ولكن قولوا أسلمنا. Say, we accepted Islam. We entered the deen. That's where you are. ولما mean not yet. يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. Iman has not entered truly into your heart yet. It will. It will. But it's not there yet. It takes a bit of time. And that's what Surah Al-An'am talks about. It's a surah that was revealed early on. And it's totally worth your time to recite and try to memorize and understand and learn. They would start moving from his character assassination that they were doing to him, alayhi salatu wasalam, and going after his family. They start going after him physically, alayhi salatu wasalam. They'd go after him physically. He would be walking out of his house, alayhi salatu wasalam, with his daughters, and they would hire, or they would give a couple of young people some money to stand out on the street with handfuls of sand. And the moment he walked on the street, alayhi salatu, they would come and throw it into his face and then run away, alayhi salatu wasalam. And of course, his eyes. And so he stands there, alayhi salatu wasalam, and he's wiping off the sand from his lihya. And one of his daughters, is doing the same. Some narrations say it was Zainab, some say it was Fatima. I don't know. It's unclear. But they're doing it, and the daughter is crying as she wipes the sand off her father's face. فَيَقُولُ بُنَيَّ لَا تَبْكِي. Don't cry. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ نَاصِرٌ أَبَاكِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant your father success. It's just be patient. Just be patient. Abu Jahl would do the same thing. But Abu Jahl never worked out for him. He always got. What time is it? Are we good for one more story? Or are we running? Okay, well, I'll tell one more. I'm not going to tell the story of Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth, because if I do, then we're going to run until after Isha, and so we'll do this next time. Abu Jahl, he tried to do things, and he always failed. SubhanAllah, it was just how his image was. He decided one day, he saw the Prophet ﷺ making sujood. And they were becoming physical with him. They were becoming physical with the Prophet ﷺ. They were going in and they were actually causing physical harm, hitting and pushing and throwing things. And it was going from calling names and maybe having discussions to now actually it was stooping to a lower level. Once you start becoming physical with someone who was trying to explain something or trying to practice something, it shows that you have nothing to do. So Abu Jahl would do this, and one of the examples, what happened once, is the Prophet ﷺ was making sujood in front of the Kaaba. So Abu Jahl would say to people, وَاللَّهِ لَأَذْهَبَنَّ فَأَطَأَنَّ رَقَبَةَ مُحَمَّدٍ بِرِجْلِي. I'm going to go in and step on his neck as he's praying, sallallahu alayhi wa ajma'in, alayhi salatu wasalam. So Abu Jahl would make this claim, and go run as he's making sujood, and I step on his neck with my foot. فَذَهَبَ Abu Jahl, he walked, and they were watching him. قال فوصل قرابة النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. He walked up and he came right close to where the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام is, and he froze. He froze for a few minutes, and then he turned back and came back again. فقالوا ما صنعت? What did you do? قال ما رأيتم. Did you see what happened? قالوا what happened? You stood there and you didn't, like he was making sujood, you didn't touch him. فقال خندق من نار بيني وبينه والله لو مددت رجلي لاحترقت. There was this trench of fire. When I came close by, you didn't see it. It was right there. If I put my foot, it burned it clear off. I couldn't come. You've lost your mind. You're on something. I don't know what you're on. You're on something. Go home and sleep. One day, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting in front of the Kaaba teaching, and a Bedouin man would come by, and he would start asking, "Can someone get me my debt from Abu al-Hakam?" Abu al-Hakam was Abu Jahl. Can someone get me my debt? Because he was a Bedouin man who would come to the city. They would usually bring with them eggs and milk and whatnot and sell. And Abu Jahl would take it and not pay the guy. I'll pay you later or whatever, give him half his. And then he came one day asking for the rest of his money for it. And Abu Jahl told him, go, I don't owe you anything, go away. So this poor man is walking around saying, he owes me for this amount and he won't give it to me. So the people sitting, the Kuffar, Sanadid Quraysh, the leaders of Quraysh, they want to have some fun. So they would tell him, go, we know his best friend. He's sitting right over there. Talk to him, he'll get you what you want from him. They were pointing at the Prophet ﷺ. This is a joke. Yani. Go talk to him. He's his best friend. He will go and get you your money. So this poor man comes to the Prophet ﷺ, pleading to him, yani, please help me. You know how it's sometimes. Please help me. Yani, Allah saying all these nice things to him. And if you just get me, yani, he's your friend. And he said, who's my friend? And what are you talking about? He said, they told me that you can get me my haqq from Abu al-Hakam. The Prophet ﷺ looked over. He knew that they were laughing. Because of course there's no good relationship between him and Abu Jahl. He knew they were just doing it as a joke. So he said, yes, come with me. So the Prophet ﷺ would take him. And we'd go right over to this man's house, Abu Jahl's house. He would knock on the door. Abu Jahl would open the door. فَيَقُولُ لَهُ يَا أَبَا الْحَكَمْ هَلْ لِهَذَا عِنْدَكَ حَقٍّ Do you owe this person something? So Abu Jahl قال نعم. He said, yes. اذهب فأته بحقه. Go inside and bring him his money. The people who sent this man were standing watching because they wanted to see what's going to happen. They'll have some fun. So Abu Jahl walks into the house. He comes back with a small bag of money. The Prophet ﷺ took it, and he gave it to this man. فقال انظر هل ينقصك شيء? Is anything missing? Is it all there? The man looks at it. فقال هي كلها. This is everything. جزاك الله بارك الله. The Prophet ﷺ sends the man on his way, and he goes. So the people who were doing this as a joke would come up to the Abu Jahl and say, well, what happened? What are you doing? Why did you give him? فقال ما رأيتم? You didn't see. قالوا نرى ماذا? جبنك? What, your cowardice? He saw that. What else are you talking about? فقال فحل من الإبل ينفخ نارا من أنفه والله لو لم أعطيه حقه لأكلني. You didn't see this? The camel that was breathing fire behind. فقالوا أي إبل وأي اذهب فنم. Go sleep. What are you talking about? There's no camel. There's nothing. You just sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ajma'in. Now I don't know if the Prophet ﷺ knew any of this stuff. I don't think he did. I honestly don't think that the Prophet ﷺ knew that there was. He just always did the right thing. It's hard to do the right thing all the time. It's almost impossible. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing. It's a task that we take for granted, it's underrated. We talk about it as if it's simple. It's very hard to do the right thing all the time. The Prophet ﷺ at that moment could have told him, look, brother, it's a joke. They're just making fun of it. They're mocking you and they're mocking me because he's not my friend and I'm going to go. He's going to yell. He's going to basically kick both of us out of his home. It's not going to work out. But the Prophet ﷺ chose to take on the task that was more difficult. And he went. He didn't know if this was going to work out or not, but he went anyways because it was the right thing to do. Because if you don't stand by the vulnerable, if you don't stand by the weak, if you don't go and help someone who is has the lower hand, then you're not. Whatever you're doing is not that worthy. And this is not just about his character, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's also about how we function, not just as individuals, but as communities as well. Any community is only as good as the services and the protection they show their vulnerable counterparts. If a community is not taking care of the weak, of the poor, of the elderly, of the sick, of the struggling, then this community will not see success. If the community only looks out for those who are privileged already, only look out for their small groups, their little silos, their bubbles, then this community, any community, will not go anywhere. A community's value is based on the services and the care they show the weak and vulnerable amongst them. The ones who can't vouch for themselves or fight for themselves, or the ones it's easy for them to not have a voice, or for people to forget about them altogether and they end up with nothing. That's what Islam is about. Islam is about making sure that the da'if, that the weak is going to be strong. If he has a haqq, that the one who has no back, the one who has no lineage, has no tribe, has no family to support them, will be supported if they're owed something. And that's what we learn from him, alayhi salatu wasalam. That he always did this. He always stood by the weak, always did. He didn't have to in this story, but he did anyways. I don't know if he had any idea. He just went and he said what he needed to say. Understanding the risk that this may go horribly wrong. But if I don't stand by him, then who will? What is the worth of my deen if this person who is mazloom, oppressed, asking for help, and I say, I'm sorry, go. what's the point? What's the worth of it all? And I just love that story. I think it's worth sharing with you. I think we're good for go. Okay, we'll stop at that. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد. Inshallah, we'll have a kahoot and Salat al-Isha right after. جزاكم الله.